Denise, thank you so much for joining me today. This is going to be such a juicy conversation. We've already been talking before we hit record, and I know we're so aligned and are passionate about so many of the same things. But I'm just going to give people a little intro on you in that you're a transformational mindset coach and you're an international retreat host and you're the author of Do It For Yourselfie. I love the title of that book. And you also have your own podcast, Getting Raw, RAW with Denise. So, welcome. And I can't wait to dive into this conversation.
Thank you so much, Angela, for having me. I have been so pumped for today and
Yeah.
I'm ready. I know we're going to
Yeah.
have such a good conversation and one that so many people are needing and wanting to hear, so I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, and that's such a great point, and that there's just so many people that kind of need to dial into the energy that you and I have learned how to find for ourselves and help other get to know themselves and um really just be their best selves and live
Mhm.
their best lives. So, I don't know, do you want to give us a little history on how you became an entrepreneur and how you found yourself as a transformational mindset coach?
Oh, the very short version of
Yeah.
this. I actually had a vision about this when I was about 10 or 11 years old. I told my mom, I said, I know what I'm going to do when I become an adult. And she's like, what? I said, I'm going to have sleepovers for women and they're going to leave happy and healed. And my mom was used to me saying some wild things. And she's like, oh, okay, why women? Why not girls? And I said, that's just what I saw. I saw it. It's just, I'm just gonna have these sleepovers. And so, time went on and I've had lots of different types of jobs and lots of types of businesses, and it somewhere along the way that it would always stem with me connecting with women and having these conversations about the mindset and life and how we can be our better selves. But before all of that, I went through my own journey of not being my best self. I went
Yeah.
through a journey of not caring properly for myself and not truly liking or loving myself and being a bully to myself. And so I had to go through my own journey of healing and transformation and self-awareness, which that's a journey all on its own.
Mm.
And fast forward, I had a lot of different life events that just shifted the way I saw life.
Hmm.
And I was in this company that I absolutely loved. I was with them for a long time. I did very well in this company. I thought I would be with this company forever. And even in that company, the role that I played with them, again, it always came back to mindset, which is how I was helping a lot of the women in that company,
Hmm.
along with other things too.
Hmm.
But then it came to this point where I felt like something was missing, something felt off, and it it felt gradual at first, and then it became stronger and stronger, where it's like something I need to be doing something different. I need to be doing something more. And the year before that, that real big pull happened. My brother passed away. He was in a car accident. And I mentioned that only because this one day I was sitting by myself having lunch and I just was thinking like, what is this thing? Like, I kept feeling something just needed to be different in my life. I needed to do something different. And while I'm sitting at that lunch by myself, I said, what's next for me? And then I said, wait, what's now for me? Right? Because a lot of times we ask what's next, and next could be tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now. But then it's no, what's now for me? And then I could hear my brother as clear as day, Angela. It was as if he was sitting right next to me. And he said, sis, don't waste any more time. And in that moment, that vision came back of the sleepovers. And with the company I was with, I actually was doing retreats for women for my team, and I would actually be a guest trainer and teacher for other people's retreats. But in that moment, I went back to that 10, 11-year-old self and said, wait, it's time to do a retreat specifically for women who are ready to put themselves first without the guilt and learn how to love themselves on all levels. At that lunch, I decided to put it all into action. I went ahead and booked an Airbnb on the beach. I didn't even know where this place was. paid a non-refundable deposit, went on Facebook and just talked about transformation and my mission at that time and what I wanted to help women do. And I said, I have 20 spots. Who wants to join me? And I sold out within an hour. And that was the beginning of my business. And the following year, I quit the other company that I was with, and I've been full time doing my own thing since.
Oh my gosh. I have goosebumps. That's like such a great story, but we don't move in our lives unless we have these profound moments. And so I love to hear what it is. And you know, when we go through our own dark night of the soul or whatever, those times where we're not good for ourselves, I mean, that's what makes us so great at helping other women now. I mean, we've walked the walk.
Yes. Hmm. Yes.
We have been there, got the
Yes.
t-shirt.
Yes.
Multiple of
Absolutely.
them.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I love that so much. And it's so inspiring. I mean, I'm inspired. I'm sure listeners are inspired just hearing that. So let's dive into some of the ways that you actually help your clients in shifting their
Hmm.
mindsets. And one of the most interesting to me is I think you have this unique um, outlook on the mirror mindset on how you use that with clients. So, can you talk about that? Because I've just recently kind of learned about this and I think it's just really fascinating.
Yes. So one of the ways we can look at mirror mindset is really getting clear on how we see ourselves. So a lot of the times when we think of other people or our circumstances or what's going on in life, it really is a reflection of how we see ourselves, but we don't always think that.
Hmm.
Right. So a lot of times we're blaming other people, like, well, they made me mad and this sucks. And because they did this and this is
Hmm.
happening in the world. But our reality is of how we see the world is really a reflection of how we see ourselves. So if we're seeing everything as miserable or feeling judged or we're feeling that things are against us,
Hmm.
we have to take a look. Well, are you judging yourself?
Hmm.
Are you against yourself? How are you actually treating and spending time with yourself? And
Hmm.
so the mirror mindset is really about how we shift and see ourselves in the world that we're living in. And so this is also one of the, I call it one of the simplest ways that we can shift our beliefs, is because most of us, and actually I would love to say all of us, but let's just say most of us were born into a world where we were put so many beliefs on us. You know, our parents, those who raised us, our
Hmm.
community, they said, this is what you believe. This is how you dress. This is what you eat. This is where we live. This is what
Hmm.
success looks like. This is what love is. This is what abandonment is. This is what trauma is, right? This is who you like. This is who you don't like. You were put all of these things were put on you. And you grow up believing these things because what else would you believe, right? And so you get to a point where you start to have this tug of war in your head and your mind and your spirit of, well, some things don't feel right, but this is how I was raised. This is how I've always been.
Hmm.
But this, if something feels different, something feels off, what if I don't believe that anymore? What if I don't feel this way anymore? And then that's met with guilt. You
Yeah.
start to feel guilty about feeling different than the way you were told to feel. You
Hmm.
feel guilty about believing something different than what you were taught to believe. But we have to understand that this is our life.
Yeah.
And yes, we have a lot of people who contribute to our lifestyle and the way life is. But at the end of this, this is our life. And if we're not sure of where we fit into our own life, then we just walk around aimlessly, just
Yeah.
not sure of what's happening.
Yeah. No, I love this because we have to stop looking outwardly to solve our
Mhm.
problems. We have
Mhm.
everything we need right here within ourselves. And, the self doubt, the imposter syndrome, the lack of confidence, all those things are a disconnect with self. And so I love anything that helps us go, okay, who am I and what part do I have in my reality that is in front of me right now?
Yes, yes, yes.
So I really love that, you're helping women do that, and really, get in connection with themselves because we're from day one from very well-intentioned adults constantly disconnected from self to adopt
Mhm.
all of those beliefs that you talked about. So,
Yes.
in creating that new reality, we also have to usually learn the concept of boundaries. And every time I talk about
Oh,
boundaries,
yeah.
my audience goes, "What?" Oh my gosh. So I love how you talk about soulful boundaries and cultivating those. So tell us about that.
Yes. Okay. So boundaries, I love talking about boundaries. It's one of my favorite topics. And the reason why it's there's a lot of reasons why it's my one of my favorite topics, but boundaries helps us to honor ourselves and the relationships that we're in.
Hmm.
But so many people are afraid of boundaries. They're
Yeah.
afraid of being judged. They're afraid of people being upset with them. They're
Mhm.
afraid of people not understanding them. They're afraid of what this means if they set this boundary. How will things change? But without boundaries, we're lacking so many ways to honor ourselves and the relationships. And so when I talk about the soulful boundaries, getting clear on what feels right for you, right? Getting clear on what's going to give you more peace, more joy, more fulfillment. And a lot of the times that is tied into having boundaries. But I want to be very clear here. When we're setting boundaries, we're not just setting boundaries with other people, we are also setting boundaries with ourselves. That is first and foremost,
Yeah.
right? And so here's what I want to say. I want to make sure I say this and not forget to say this. We cannot ask other people to do things for us that we are not willing to do for ourselves.
Mm.
We cannot ask other people to do things for us that we are not willing to do for ourselves. So we can't say, respect me, but I don't respect myself. Love me, but I don't love myself.
Hmm.
See me for who I am, but I don't see or accept myself.
Hmm.
That's unfair, right? And so, first, setting the boundaries with yourself and asking, what does my soul need? What
Mm.
do I need? And how can I give it to myself?
Hmm.
Where a lot of times we're asking, what do I need and who can give it to me?
Yep. Hmm.
And yes, sure, there's so many things that other people will need to give or will be what we need. But
Hmm.
we first need to have our first point of contact is us.
Hmm.
And so when we're asking, what is it that I need and how can I give it to me first? Then you get to search within yourself and say, okay, you know what? Today I need a lot more love today. I'm
Hmm.
just feeling some more. I need more love.
Hmm.
How can I give that to myself? And pour into yourself in whatever ways you need. And then now, okay, if you need it from other people, great. But first check in with yourself. So, with the boundaries, when we're
Hmm.
talking about boundaries, it's not a scary thing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Hmm.
Will everyone be on board when you start passing out these boundaries?
Hmm.
Absolutely not. Everyone will not be on board. Okay. I'm not going to even set you up and tell you that everyone's going to be all for it and cheering
Hmm.
you on and
Hmm.
understanding. That's not reality, right? There will be people who are resistant to it, right? I've had to set boundaries with family members. They didn't understand it, they didn't want to respect it. That was not my problem. This is what I'm saying I need to happen for me to have peace and
Hmm.
for our relationship to be okay.
Hmm.
Now, if the other person is not okay with that, that can be a different conversation. However, you don't want to back down from your boundaries.
Hmm.
By backing down from your boundaries, you're again saying, well, my feelings don't matter.
Hmm.
And the reason why this is one of the reasons why this is really difficult for a lot of people is because we weren't really taught to have boundaries. And we see this a lot in women. I'm not saying that this is not real for men because
Yeah.
it's real for every one of us,
Hmm.
but especially for women, for us girls, right? Girls growing up, if you think about it, there's someone I know who's listening to this who can relate to this. You go to a holiday dinner, everyone's there, and mom or grandma says, "Go hug Uncle Jake." And you're like, "Uncle Jake weirds me out." Go hug him anyway.
Yeah.
And again, it's not that mom, grandma, aunt, they were doing something bad. They
Hmm.
didn't think anything was wrong with it.
Hmm.
But what are we taking in our young mind that I'm uncomfortable, but I have to do it anyway?
Right.
I can't say no.
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to be mad if I say no.
Right.
So in this moment, I don't feel seen or heard.
Mm-hmm.
And then this carries on. It carries on. It carries on.
Mm-hmm.
We're told girls are supposed to do this. I remember someone told me we're going to make, I was a little girl and I was with a family member and we went to McDonald's and I really wanted a Big Mac. Okay. I wanted to try a Big Mac. I never had one. And
Mm-hmm.
I was told young girls don't eat Big Macs because you'll get fat.
Mm. Yeah.
So again, the messages that were, and again, now this family member probably felt that they were doing something helpful for me. But again, what does that do to my brain, my young mind?
Right.
Right. And so we're given so many messages that we carry throughout our lives. And so when we become these adults and we're feeling like, okay, I want to do this in a different way. This doesn't feel right. But
Mm-hmm.
is it okay? Is it okay if I tell this person I don't like that? Is
Mm-hmm.
it okay if I tell this person, hey, what you said didn't make me feel good? Is it
Mm-hmm.
okay? Or will I be judged? Will I be shamed?
Yeah.
Right. And so this is where we have to build up that courage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before the confidence, we have to have the courage.
Yeah. And I think it's really important too. We have a tendency to beat ourselves up about anything. Any opportunity to beat ourselves up and bully ourselves, we will
Oh,
do
yeah.
it. But I think it's important to understand the neuroscience behind why we do this. We're
Hmm.
hardwired to be a part of the tribe, part of the group, because at one point it meant our survival.
Yes.
Well, our brains haven't quite caught up with, whether we're doing a YouTube live or being chased by a woolly mammoth or saying no to a creepy family member or, being ostracized to a, famine in the desert. I don't know. Our
Hmm.
brain doesn't know the difference. And so just because we have these emotions doesn't mean they're true. Just because we have fear and feel fear doesn't mean that it's true. And it's going to be uncomfortable. And yeah, you're right. A lot of people aren't going to like the boundaries, but that's okay. And
Absolutely.
that just makes space for the people who do support you and the people who are understanding of your boundaries, and you're going to have
Hmm.
peace, you're going to have fulfillment, and you're going to have happiness the more you cultivate that and the more you stick to your boundaries.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I would love to add right here too, if there's someone listening and they're saying,
Mm,
okay, well, Angela, Denise, this all sounds good,
yeah.
but how do I do this? One of the best things you can do is really talk to yourself.
Right.
Now, we talk to ourselves anyway, okay? All
Mhm.
day long, we are having conversations with ourselves. But this is where I'm asking you to have intentional conversations with yourself and
Mm.
asking yourself
Mhm.
intentional questions. So
Mhm.
when you're faced with that fear,
Yeah.
asking yourself real questions like, okay, well, what about this scares me?
Mhm.
What about this is making me pause?
Mhm.
What about this is just not feeling right?
Mhm.
And then asking, okay, what about this does feel okay?
Mhm.
What about this is exciting me?
Mhm.
And a lot of times we ask, what's the worst that can happen? And I love to ask, well, what's the best that can happen? If I
Mhm.
were to do this, what's the best that can come from this?
Mhm.
That switches the neurons in our brain, right?
Mhm.
It goes from thinking the worst case and us spiraling out of control to now
Mhm.
thinking like, oh wait, now my mind needs to find best case scenarios here. And
Mhm.
it starts to ease those nerves. It starts to ease
Yeah.
the anxiety and the
Mhm.
fear.
Mhm.
But asking ourselves intentional questions
Mhm.
instead of letting our thoughts just run rampant,
Yeah.
which they are, it's easy to do, right, for all of us. But grabbing hold and saying, okay, what's going to benefit me the most by
Mhm.
doing this, by
Mhm.
setting this boundary, by speaking my mind, by saying what my heart really wants to express,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I think, for all the moms listening, the parents listening, we have an obligation to do this because we're teaching our children. And,
Yes.
I had this really uncomfortable situation. It was before I had really learned to set boundaries. And somebody wanted to do ride sharing, and my daughter just really didn't feel comfortable with riding with this other person. It was convenient for my schedule, and this other person wanted to reciprocate. And it was really hard. And I wish I would have taken a firmer stance. And my daughter, I just kind of like was like, it's okay, don't worry about it. But I really want to encourage parents to listen to their children too. They can signal when you need to create a boundary. And
Yes.
finally, I stopped and I'm like, this is so stressful. And why is it stressful? And I just didn't want to have this uncomfortable conversation that needed to be had. And it
Mm-hmm.
resolved itself, but it's like, you know, it was so tough, and boundaries are so tough, but it's not always with family members, and it's always not super obvious. And sometimes as parents, we're so just kind of maxed out on our decision making ability. And so when things start feeling stressful, when you start feeling resentful, you know, be aware of looking for the signs when you need to make a boundary, is
Yes.
ultimately my point.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I love that. It's just something that we're just it's conditioned out of us to be aware of boundaries. So in the process of shifting your mindset and getting more connected with yourself, it's just a must do. It's something you can't ignore. You have to do.
Yes, 100%. And
Yeah,
I appreciate you even saying that too about it being an obligation for
it
us
is.
because we do have our future looking at us, right? Our
Right.
children are watching
Right.
us.
Right.
They're watching how we handle conflict. They're
Mhm.
watching how we handle
Mhm.
stressful situations. They're watching how we feel when it can be an embarrassing moment, right? They're watching
Yeah.
how we interact with other people. They're watching all of us, right?
Mhm.
They're watching to
Mhm.
see, okay, that's what I do when I'm stressed.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm
Mhm.
supposed to do in this. That's what I'm supposed to do. You
Mhm.
know, they're watching it. So we can
Mhm.
say all the things we want to say to them, but
Right.
they're watching our
Yeah.
actions.
Yeah. It's
You
about
know,
being
and that's not to
cautious.
say, you know, it's not like, oh, now I'm putting pressure on us, you know, but it's it's no way saying we have to be perfect moms because there's no such thing as a
Yeah.
perfect mom. There's no such thing as a
Yeah.
perfect anything, right? And
Right.
so it's just saying, how can I do my best, you know, in this situation? And
Mhm.
also, don't be afraid to be vulnerable with your children, right?
Yeah.
Be vulnerable with them. It's not saying you have to
Mhm.
spill your guts and tell them
Oh,
all the
yeah.
things, but be
Mhm.
okay with expressing, you know, mom isn't feeling great right in this moment,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
And so sometimes when mom isn't feeling great, she just needs to take a breather, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Right? You don't feel great sometimes, right? And when you don't feel
Yeah.
great, it's okay for you to take a breather, right? It's even letting them know, like,
Mhm.
hey, mom goes through the same things. Mom has frustrating moments too. And when I feel frustrated, I take deep breaths, you know, I may
Yeah.
go for a walk or I play with you and it makes me feel
Mhm.
better.
Mhm.
Right. So it's letting them know it's okay to have those uncomfortable feelings and those
Mhm.
feelings that just don't feel good.
Right.
They need to know that this is part of our experience of life as
Mhm.
well as the good moments too.
Mhm. No, yeah, it's all about the permission we give ourselves and others around us. It's so
Mhm.
important. So we're talking. I didn't really imagine this conversation would be so self-reflective, but I love that it is, because we all have to do the inner work and keep doing the inner work. So let's talk about how self-validation and self-friendship, I love this concept, plays into all of this.
Oh, yes. Okay. So self-validation, it's one of the things that I've noticed with all of the women that I've worked with, private coaching, group coaching, retreats, just
Mhm.
women everywhere, right? Even women
Mhm.
that I don't work with, just women in general. They're all coming from different backgrounds. They all have different circumstances and
Mhm.
situations. However, their challenges are very relatable. And
Mhm.
so that was one of the driving forces of me writing my book, Do It For Your Selfie. And I love a play on words. Okay. So
Mhm.
selfie is
Yeah.
not the selfie we take with your camera, but I break it down to 6 selfies,
Mhm.
with self validation being one of them.
Mhm.
And what I'm doing in these chapters is breaking down first what these words actually mean,
Mm-hmm.
because these words get tossed around a lot. Self
Yeah.
love, self worth, self confidence.
Mm-hmm.
They get tossed around so much. They're on coffee mugs, t shirts, quotes. They're all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And people are, I love myself. I know my worth, but your actions aren't connecting to what you're saying. And
Mm-hmm.
so the book is a non-judgmental, non-sugar-coated book. Okay, it's a
Mm-hmm.
tool. It's your
Mm-hmm.
bestie on pages. It's letting you know you're not alone. There's no need to feel shame. We've all
Mm-hmm.
been there. And it's taking you on a journey of, now that we know what this really is about, what this really means,
Mm-hmm.
now how do we shift our mindset around it?
Mm-hmm.
And self validation is something we don't talk about a lot and we don't talk about enough. And
Mm-hmm.
so we are constant, for a lot of humans, are constantly seeking outside validation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And again, this is something that was kind of like we saw growing up. And
Yeah.
again, this is no fault or blame to those who
Yeah.
raised us.
Yeah.
They were doing what they felt was best, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if you were a straight A student, right, and you're bringing home A's every time, and your family's like, keep it up, good job, you're going to get into great schools, you're going to do great in life, you know, blah blah blah, and then you bring home a C one day, you have an off day, you bring home a C, and now they're like, oh, what happened? What, did you not study? What's going on? Make sure
Mm-hmm.
next time you get an A. Now you're like, oh, wait. So when I get A's, they praise me. They're really loving me. But
Mm-hmm.
when I don't get an A, they're disappointed in me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like that feeling. They were like wagging their finger at me. I didn't like that. So now I have to make sure I always get the A. I have to make sure I'm always getting the A. I got to do my best all
Mm-hmm.
the time.
Yeah.
Then even on the flip side, for someone who may not do great in school, may not do
Mm-hmm.
great at sports, may not do just may haven't found their thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they're always getting told, you gotta try harder. Why can't you be like your cousin?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you be like the neighbor across the street?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's going on? Are you not focused enough?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we really want to be proud of you here. We really want you to do well, but you got
Mm-hmm.
to work harder. You know,
Mm-hmm.
again, these were not things that parents felt were wrong. But again, we're internalizing these in a way like, I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
We're internalizing it. I have to do my best or I'm not going to get the praise.
Mm-hmm.
And so praise feels good. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with praise. There's nothing wrong with people saying, good job, high five, getting your
Right.
awards. There's nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're constantly seeking it
Mm-hmm.
to prove that we're worthy of something, that's
Mm-hmm.
the problem.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about self-validation, that's us saying, like, hey, I know my worth. I know that what I'm doing is good enough for me. I
Mm-hmm.
can validate myself in this moment. And if I choose to share this with other people and
Mm-hmm.
they want to give me their praise, that's awesome. That's an extra sweet bonus. But
Yeah.
I don't need it,
Mm-hmm.
right? It feels good, but I don't need it to know my worth,
Mm-hmm.
right? So again, please know, praise is great, right? Getting all the accolades, that feels good. There's nothing wrong with it. We
Yeah.
love it.
Right.
It only becomes a problem when we're constantly seeking it
Mm-hmm.
because we attach it to our worth.
Yeah.
That's where the problem comes in.
It's why we have so many women, high achieving women who are burnt out. And they get the
Hmm.
corner office, they get the job, they get the car, they get the house, the family, whatever, and they're still unhappy. They don't
Yeah.
understand why. And that was definitely my story. I did all the things, I checked all the boxes. I was the straight A student. I was, the high achiever, and that was my sense of self-worth. I stepped away from my lifelong uh career and I had an identity crisis. Like
Hmm.
who
Hmm.
am I without the accolades and all of the things?
Hmm.
And that was devastating, but one of the best things that ever happened to me. And that I just had to go, who am I? And what is my sense of self-worth? And where do I get my worthiness? It's just so important. And so I would love to hear about, some of the transformations that you have seen your clients go through. And I mean, you do some amazing retreats, just like they look so gorgeous and beautiful. But get the sense that there is some real work happening. So tell us about
Yes.
that. Yeah. I mean, it's like outwardly beautiful, and I know the inner beauty is happening too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So we actually have a retreat coming up next month, or
Ooh,
we
awesome.
actually have a retreat coming up at the time of this recording. We have one coming up the following month, in which we
Mm-hmm.
will be in Bali.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do choose really beautiful locations. However, retreats are not vacations, okay? We're not
Mm-hmm.
sitting around sipping cocktails, just having people fan us,
Mm-hmm.
right? We do get to enjoy the location we're in. However,
Mm-hmm.
we're doing a lot of deep dive work. And so it's a very vulnerable space. Like the women
Mm-hmm.
who are coming, most of them don't know each other. We always have women who are repeat, we, we call them raw mates. So repeat raw mates who will come back. So some of them do know each
Uh-huh.
other, but we always have some new women who are joining us,
Uh-huh.
and they all leave connected. They all leave bonded because you
So
are
cool.
really going through some things individually and as a group that
Mm-hmm.
you don't go through, you don't
Yeah.
talk about, you don't have these breakthroughs in your everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Even with some of their best friends or their closest partners, they don't have these moments because not enough time are we actually getting deep with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it could be because we don't have the time, or we're telling ourselves we don't have the time
Right.
or the energy, or we
Uh-huh.
don't know how to do it. We don't have the
Mm-hmm.
type of support to help us through it.
Mm-hmm.
And during these retreats, we are really getting to the core of what is happening, what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that reminder that this is your one known life that you're living.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to choose how you want to live it. And
Mm-hmm.
so we don't tiptoe around anything. I don't believe in sugarcoating anything. I don't believe in like, let's tiptoe around this. Heck no. Let's get to work. Okay. We don't have time to waste, right? We want to make
Yeah.
sure that the rest of our lives feel amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are we going to still have traumatic experiences and hard times?
Sure.
That's life, right? But however, the majority of our life should feel good. We should
Mm-hmm.
feel at peace with the decisions we're making in our lives. We
Mm-hmm.
should wake up feeling at ease with love and
Mm-hmm.
joy about our lives. And when we're not, we have to ask ourselves, why? What
Right.
is going on that I'm not feeling good about my life? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
feeling good about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the things that's happening are things that stem from the past. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that are happening are things that's happening currently in their life, and they're just not sure how to navigate it or what to do about it. And so
Mm-hmm.
we get to the core of the problem, we get to the core
Mm-hmm.
of the challenge to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what is really happening. And this way, they have these big, beautiful breakthrough moments where it's become so clear as to how they can now make the shift in their life.
Mm-hmm.
These women, they go home and they make big changes. Okay. They don't just go home and like, that was so fun. No, they go home and they make big changes in their lives.
I love
And
it.
even the ones that make small changes, the
Mm-hmm.
small changes have big impact.
Right.
One of the women and all of the women who I've been blessed with to work with have just touched me in so many special ways, just touch my heart, touch my soul in so many special ways. And there's always some that it's like, oh my wow.
Mm-hmm.
This one woman, she came to her first retreat
Mm-hmm.
and she was going through a really tough divorce. She
Mm-hmm.
had two young girls and she was really just not in a good space.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really hoping that her and her husband would, reconcile and things would be
Mm-hmm.
okay, but it turned into a really horrible mess. It
Mm-hmm.
just was not okay. Like the things that he was putting her through, and her still needing to be a mom, still needed to work, still needed to do all the things and keep her
Mm-hmm.
sanity.
Mm-hmm.
And so she came to the retreat, she put in the work, and she and I actually worked together one on one after a while as
Mm-hmm.
well. But what I really want to get to is that when you're working with someone, whether it's a coach or a mentor, or a therapist, or going on a retreat, you have to put the work in,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to be open enough to say, I want to make the shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so happy to say that this young woman,
Mhm.
She has made so many great strides in her life. She finalized the divorce, everything was fine. Through
Mhm.
that, she needed to get back into loving herself. So we went on a self-friendship journey, right? With her becoming her own best friend, where
Mhm.
before she didn't even really like who she was, she
Mhm.
grew into someone who fell in love with who she was. That was the journey of the self-friendship that she went through. She also knew that she wanted to remarry one day. And
Mhm.
but she before she can do that, she had to first learn how to love, respect, and see herself and shift the things she didn't like. Now, since some years later has passed, she
Mhm.
is remarried. They had another baby together, or they had a baby
Aw.
together. She started her own business. She is thriving in life, and she's doing well.
Aw.
And even when challenges come up, even because life is going to still throw those challenges, she has the tools to better navigate them, to actually get through them without feeling like life is falling apart. So that's just
Yeah.
one example of
Yeah.
someone who went through some struggle and came out on the other side of it.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you made that point. It's like when you start to do this really tough inner work, you do still continue to have to exercise that muscle, but challenges become easier. I don't know, it gets easier. It's like
Yes.
it's muscle memory. So, so I love that you mentioned that because people don't think about like how the work is gonna impact them in the long term.
Hmm.
So that's
Yes.
I love that so much. So, how do you balance all of this, doing the coaching and the podcasting and all of the things? Give us some insight on how you do it because so many of us, are constantly working on that as well.
Okay.
It's
Yes.
a
So,
continual challenge for us all. Don't think it's a one and done for anybody.
oh no, it is not. So please, for those who are listening, just know we're always going to be on a journey. Okay.
Right?
It's just the journey gets easier, right? It gets
Right.
more manageable. It
Mm-hmm.
gets lighter. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's a curveball that gets thrown in there, and then you gotta like,
Right.
okay, let me navigate this. But
Yeah.
you don't get to a point where you're like, I know it all, I figured it out,
Yeah.
I'm the best,
No.
I'm the no, no. You do get better than you were.
Right.
You get better than you were.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
that's a beautiful part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very, very proud of the journey I've been on. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very, very proud of the work that I put in myself because there was a point, Angela, where it was very dark for me for a while. I had a
Mm-hmm.
young daughter and I was in a really, really bad place to the
Mm-hmm.
point where I didn't think I could get out of it. And
Yeah.
even knowing that I had a child who depended on me, it wasn't enough for
Mm-hmm.
me to get out of it. Right. It was so dark. And so for me to say, here, life is so much better, so
Mm-hmm.
much lighter. I'm
Mm-hmm.
proud of the work that I put in to get to this
Mm-hmm.
point. And my daughter is healthy, happy, thriving. My daughter's actually an adult now.
Oh my gosh.
And she has a little boy. I have a grandboy.
Oh my gosh.
And
You do not look like you could be a grandma.
I use a really good moisturizer. So
I
thank you.
know. I almost have an adult child too. It's crazy, but it's like it
Oh my God.
happens.
And it's so I'm going to answer the question, but I want to say just when you said that you have like an adult child too, is that I was talking with a friend. He's actually one of my best friends. We've been best friends since third grade, and
Uh-huh.
he has young children.
Uh-huh.
And we were talking a few months ago, and he was saying how like, oh, well, you got it easy because she's grown out of the house. I'm like, who told you that? Like, who told you it gets easier?
This gets more
Listen,
complex.
uh, being a parent of an adult, that's a whole different.
Right.
That's a,
I
no one
actually have
prepared me for
people,
that.
yeah, I actually have women who say to me, well, I'm not really a mompreneur anymore. My kids are adults. And I'm like, what? It doesn't stop at a certain age. It's like it is always there.
Yes, it is always there. But to answer your question,
Yeah.
so because I know in the past I suffered from severe anxiety,
Mhm.
I had depression at a point in my life because I had those challenges in the past, and I'm grateful to say I don't have those challenges now. I still am very mindful of how I
Mhm.
take care of myself so I
Mhm.
don't slip into depression or anxiety.
Mhm.
So even though life feels really good for me now, and I feel that I'm able to handle challenges a whole lot better than my past self, I still have to be mindful that, hey,
Yeah.
life can throw something really big at me and I could really crumble, right? If I
Mhm.
allow myself to. So I have
Mhm.
certain things in place to keep me fully aware of self and really taking care of me first. And
Mhm.
so my mornings are, I really take time for me in the mornings. And so for those who are listening, like, okay, Denise, well, you just said you have an adult child, so you don't have little kids at home like I do. I don't have time in the morning. And I'm here to say, yes, you do. You
Yep.
find the time. You
Mhm.
have to find the time. It is so crucial for us to take the time for ourselves, whether that's 5 minutes, an
Yeah.
hour, whatever it is, but we have to first check on ourselves. So I'm very, very, very good at checking on myself before I check on anyone else
Mhm.
because I have to make sure I'm okay. I have to make sure I'm good, I'm sound, I'm grounded. So I have, my time in the morning where I have different rituals. I don't do the same thing every single morning. I used
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
when I needed more consistency of, okay, I do this, 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 this. Now, when I wake up, I check on myself and say, okay, what do I need today? What do I need in this moment? I may journal, I may meditate, I may do a solo dance party. Those are my favorites. Take an extra long shower, whatever
I
it
want
is,
in on
but taking
that.
that time for me. Oh my God, I love solo dance parties, Angela. They're the best. And one thing I also do is sit in quiet. I sit
Yeah.
with quiet. I love sitting in quiet. It's it's
Highly underrated.
it's oh my God, it has helped so much. And I used to be like, go, 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 hustle, hustle,
Yeah.
hustle. Ah.
Mhm.
And so again, that part of my life is over where now it's I need quiet, right? I have to have some quiet time,
Mhm.
especially with the work that I do. But I feel with
Mhm.
with any person, it doesn't matter what work you do, you
Mhm.
need to have the quiet time. You need to have the time where it's just you and yourself in that
Mhm.
moment. But also how I'm able to manage things is
Mhm.
that I work a schedule that works for me.
Right.
All right.
Mhm.
So I work a schedule that works for me. So I'm saying that for those out there like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what does that mean? It means work a schedule that works for you. So whatever
Yeah.
that looks like, don't
Mhm.
force yourself to work a schedule that doesn't work for you because then you'll get burnt out, you'll get resentful, you'll get crabby, right? And so you want to make sure that you're working a schedule that works for you. So what
Mhm.
works best for me and my brain,
Mhm.
I even if I have certain projects, like, oh, if I have 3 projects going on, I can only have 1 focus a day. So
Hmm.
1 focus a day. That's what works best for me. So, for example, I am in the process of creating this really epic, experience,
Mhm.
and when I'm working on it, that's all I'm working on that day. So,
Mm.
I'm also working on, like, revamping my journal. I can't work
Mhm.
on that the same day I'm working on my new experience because
Mhm.
that's just my brain. So again, I've tried methods where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, the first 2 hours I work on
Mhm.
this, next 2 hours, and that doesn't work for me. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm just stressing work a schedule that works for you. Like
Mhm.
really ask yourself, okay, what feels best for me? What time of the day works best for me to work? Like, again, knowing yourself helps with that.
Mhm. I think when you're a busy mom or a busy entrepreneur, it's a luxury to do what they call monotasking. Like,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I heard about that and I'm like, what? We're supposed to be multitasking every moment of the day, all of the time, even in our sleep, right? So I think that's the new luxury.
I think so
Monotasking.
too. I think so too. Yeah, it's now sometimes you have to multitask. So when I
Right.
have my grandson, okay, he just turned 2 in July,
Uh-huh. Aw.
and so I'll have my husband and I will have him for like stretches of time
Uh-huh.
without my daughter. So just him. So I have to put on a
Yeah. Sure.
different headspace for
Right.
that because
Mhm.
he's a toddler,
Right.
and so I can't do my regular routine when he's with
Mhm.
us, and so that shifts things too. And
Mhm.
yeah, I learned really quick, like, okay, I
Yeah.
certain things
Yep. No,
it's different with the toddler. But yes, you
it
just
sure is.
what I would love for women to take away from what I just said is that whatever situation you're in, whatever age your children are, whatever it
Mhm.
is that you have going on in your life, finding some type of harmony. And I'm
Yeah.
I'm purposely not using the word balance,
Yeah.
right? Finding some type of harmony in creating a schedule or routine or a way of being that feels good for you. Because
Mhm.
if you're doing everything for everyone else and working a schedule for everyone else and appeasing everyone else, you're going to get resentful, crabby, upset, just depressed. If you're not already, like you're heading there, right? Because that's what happens.
Mhm.
So include you in your plans, right?
Mhm.
Include you in how you want to do things, right? Include you. You're part of this scenario,
Right?
okay? Not just your partner, your kids, your job, your friends, your family. You're part of that scenario. So
Yeah.
make sure you're including you.
No, I love that. And I was going to ask you what takeaway or takeaways you have for listeners. Is there anything else you'd like to add? You've shared so much. I mean, it's just been an awesome conversation.
Yes. I want you all to remember, and I know I said this earlier, but truly, and this is, please take this as an uplifting thing and not like a downer, but
Mhm.
reminding yourself that this is your one known life that you're living.
Mhm.
Please stop putting off everything. Please stop saying when the kids are older or when the football season is over or when me and my partner are happier or when the
Yeah.
divorce is settled or when what stop. Just stop.
Yes.
Stop with it. Okay. I know you're probably thinking, Denise, you don't know my situation. I don't know your situation. You're right, I don't. But what I do know is that we have this one precious life.
Yeah.
This one precious life we're living. And if it's not feeling good, you have to ask yourself, what am I doing? How can I feel better about this life that I'm living? What can I do? What can I do to add a little bit more joy, a little bit more fun, a little bit more peace? It doesn't have to be perfect. It just allow it to feel better for you.
Right.
Please. That's my biggest thing I would love for everyone to just take away is just find a way to just have life feel better for you.
Yeah. And life will sneak up on you. I share that my mom passed away, having always wanted to go to Hawaii. I've been 3 times, and it's just a reminder. Like she had that regret, and there's no redo. And so
No.
it's so important. Life has a way of slipping through your fingers and time passing. And like you said, when the kids get older or whatever, and we really have an obligation to model that life we want for our kids in our own lives. And so to show them what's possible, to teach
Yes.
them what's possible while we're also learning what's possible.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So, Denise, it's been so awesome talking to you. I don't want the conversation to end. I look forward to staying connected, and we're gonna be, this is too good. We got to work together and do some things together. So stay tuned
Yes.
for that. But where can listeners connect with you? Because I know they're gonna want to do that.
Yes. The easiest way is I have a website, denisemarsh.net. Super simple. On there, you can find out retreats that I have going on. And I'm also on Instagram. I'm not super active on social media. However, there are things on my Instagram page, which is just Denise Marsh _ And I have a podcast, Getting Raw with Denise,
Love it.
and my book, Do It For Yourselfie. If you are looking for a good book that is going to give you some action steps to help you with becoming your own bestie and learning how to get out of the guilt and shame of not feeling like your best, pick up the book, Do It For Yourselfie. You can find it on any online retailer. And you can always just reach out to me. If you have a question, you want to chat, just reach on out. I love meeting new
Yeah.
friends.
And if there was something you really needed to hear that we talked about today, connect with us on social media, tag us, let us know. We love to hear from you. Don't be shy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Angela.
Thanks, Denise. It's been so great talking to you.